If you're thinking about buying a home in Philadelphia or you're thinking about investing in Philadelphia, you've probably heard of the 10-year tax abatement. So the 10-year tax abatement in Philadelphia is something that is a mystery to a lot of people, but it could really save you tens of thousands of dollars over the 10 years. So today I'm going to break down how the abatement works, what has changed with the abatement, and how to take advantage of it without needing to do a bunch of crazy Google searches to try and figure it out. So my name is Marco Gabriel, your local real estate agent here in Philadelphia, and it's my goal to provide you with everything that you need to know about living your best life on Broad Street. So if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in Philadelphia, definitely shoot me an email or drop a comment below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So what is the 10-year tax abatement? The tax abatement is an incentive that the city gives out to try and get people to build new construction. And this came into effect years ago, I believe the early 2000s, and the city was trying to spur development. They were trying to encourage people to develop properties and basically get rid of a lot of the blighted properties that were abandoned in these neighborhoods, and also provide new inventory so that people had properties that they would want to move into the city and purchase. So that is where the abatement came about. And the original new construction abatement was really for the full 10 years. And it was, you would be taxed on only the land assessment and not the improvement value of the building after you purchased it. So what this looks like, for an example, is if you were purchasing a property in Philadelphia for $1 million and the city assessed the land at a $200,000 value, but they assessed the actual building at the $800,000 value, you would only be taxed on that $200,000 land assessment. And that would be a significant savings for you. So rather than getting taxed on the $1 million assessment, which would be roughly $14,000 per year, being taxed on only that $200,000 assessment of the land would equate to about $2,500 a year. So it's a significant savings. In that case, it would actually be over $10,000 a year that you would be saving. We have one development right now in Northern Liberties, Wendell Place, that actually is fully grandfathered in for that abatement. And those are pretty much the exact numbers that we're seeing on those homes, because they're selling for about $1 million and the land assessments came in at 200,000, and they have that old abatement. So it's a really, really strong incentive. Now, after 2022, they actually changed the abatement and they did lessen it and weaken it a bit. So it's still a great incentive, but properties that were permitted or started construction too late after that 2022 period are now getting a new abatement. And we're calling that either the step down abatement or the tiered abatement. Those are kind of the terms that people are referring to that new abatement as. And this abatement equals about half as much of the benefit of the original abatement, but it is still over the 10 years. And so how it works is, in year one, you're only going to be taxed on the land improvement and not the building improvement. But then in year two, you're going to be taxed on the land and then 10% of the building improvement. Year three, you would be taxed on the land and 20% of the building improvement. And it would continue to step up and step up and step up each year until on year 10. And after that, you would be paying the full assessment amount. So it's a gradual increase every year of the taxes until the taxes reach what they normally would have been without the abatement. So it's still a great program, but it's just something to be aware of if you're shopping for properties in Philadelphia, specifically if you're looking at new construction. You need to know which abatement you're looking at or that you're getting with the home, because if you're not aware, it could be about half as effective depending on which abatement you're getting. The third type of abatement is for renovations, and the way that that one works is a little bit different than the other two. So typically with a renovation, how that one's going to work is you're going to be taxed on the improvement and land value from before the renovation, and the additional value that was added on top of that by renovating the property is what gets abated. So for example, if a developer bought a property for, let's say, $500,000 and the land was assessed at 200, the building was assessed at 300, and then they spent a whole bunch of money and renovated it and then sold it for $1 million. Your still going to get taxed on the $200,000 land assessment and the $300,000 improvement assessment from before the renovation, but you're not going to be taxed on the additional improvement of that $500,000 for the 10 years. So you are getting a savings for the 10 years. It's not typically as much of a savings because you still are paying a little bit of the improvement, but it's still a great incentive if you're looking at properties that are full gut renovated. So specifically with renovated properties and even new construction, you always want to ask if they already have the abatement approved, because sometimes you will see people advertising that the property has an abatement, but they haven't gotten the commencement form yet for the approval. So you always want to make sure that they have the approval in hand, it's been accepted by the city, and that they have something called a commencement form that they hand over to the buyer at settlement. And what that form does is when it's given to the buyer fills it out with their information. They bring it down to the OPA office on Walnut Street. They get it stamped, and then the city takes that, and that's what triggers them to go and actually put the abatement into effect and reassess the property if it hasn't already been reassessed, to figure out what that abatement value is going to look like. So whenever you're buying new construction, always know that you have to go and ask the listing side and ask the sellers to provide you with that commencement form at settlement. And you need to go and physically file it with the city. I think you can scan it in as well, but I would bring it down myself and get it stamped. And that is how you're going to get your abatement actually started. If you miss that step, even if they advertised it as having an abatement, you're not going to get the abatement. So that's really important. I've seen people who have bought properties and not done that step, and then they don't end up getting the abatement and they end up paying way more in taxes that they could have avoided. So that is my overview of the new construction and renovation abatement. If you have any questions about the Philly tax abatement, how it works, any of the steps involved in the process, or what you should be aware of, definitely feel free to reach out to me. And if you found this video helpful, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you next time.